UFC 226 was off the hook. Despite losing the much anticipated co-main event, there was still a lot of large moments that took place. Whether it be the huge upset of Khalil Rountree knocking out famed kickboxer Gokhan Saki in a major upset victory, Anthony Pettis seemingly returning to the Showtime of old with an awesome display of his technical prowess both on the feet and on the mat en route to the victory, the complete firefight that was Paul Felder versus Mike Perry that delivered a frantic pace which included the kind of violence you'd expect to see when you get these two guys colliding, or the absolute stunning result of the main event when Daniel Cormier knocked out Stipe Miocic. A result I personally hadn't heard anyone pick, and it's one I don't think anybody expected. The result of the main event heavyweight clash is one that elicited a reaction out of the fans that we haven't seen in a long time. UFC 226 was a hit. But to the surprise of many, myself included, the one fight on paper that promised to be a classic knockdown, drag-em-out war literally ended up being one of the very worst fights in UFC history. It sounds harsh to put it that way, but Derrick Lewis versus Francis Ngannou ended up breaking the record for the least amount of strikes thrown in a fight, or a heavyweight fight, or something of the like. I can't remember offhand exactly what it was I heard, and it's not like I'm too lazy to take the time to go back to look into it, which I could easily do. I just think you all get my point. A fight that had a lot of fans extremely excited was a complete letdown and an absolute dud of a fight. MMA fans' memories are so fickle. You're only as good as your last fight. You can reel off 3 impressive knockout victories and be the talk of the town as the next big thing for a year straight, have one lackluster performance, and you're essentially removed from the conversation altogether. It's a very unforgiving game, and the MMA fan base's memory is generally extremely poor. That usually doesn't work to the fighter's advantages, but sometimes it can. The word is that Derrick Lewis is dealing with serious back injuries and issues, which isn't news to people who have been paying attention to the Black Beast's career. It's been an ongoing issue for quite some time now. It's something that he's talked about often, and it was the very problem that caused the last-moment cancellation of the fight versus Fabricio Verdum. He's also talked about dealing with these issues dating back to the Mark Hunt fight. Based on what I'm hearing, it's clear it's a major hindrance for Lewis and something that absolutely needs to be dealt with. Lewis is responsible for some of the most vicious KOs we've ever seen come out of the heavyweight division, so I think it's worth the wait for Lewis to step aside and to get healthy so he has the ability to perform to the best of his capabilities. In a very bold but honest move, after UFC 226, Francis Ngannou took to social media apologizing to fans, the UFC, and his family for such a poor performance, citing carrying fear over from his last fight as the reason why he was so reluctant to engage and pull the trigger. He went on to say that the only thing he can do from here on out is to make sure it doesn't happen again, and that he would not let the fans down like that again. Which brings me to a proposal I have for the fans, the UFC, Derrick Lewis, and Francis Ngannou. It's a little bit unconventional, given it was literally one of the worst fights ever, but provided Lewis can get healthy, I say book the rematch. I can't think of a time this was ever done in MMA. A fight being a complete dud and then the promotion giving the fighters another crack at it. But I think if the UFC were to make these two redo this fight, it would have a certain intrigue that we've never really been able to experience before. Derrick Lewis versus Francis Ngannou has all the makings for a crazy fight with a spectacular finish, and just because it never happened the first time, that does not mean it would be this way if they were to step in there again. In fact, if this fight was to be rebooked, it would put a pressure on these two to come out there and perform. That pressure sounds like a negative, but I think it's the type of pressure that would bring out the very best in these two competitors. If Lewis versus Ngannou 2 was booked, it would catch the attention of fans and it would have us looking forward to the fight for different reasons altogether than we did for the first outing. It would be a move that gives the two fighters a chance to undo the disappointment and the UFC an opportunity to do something different. So I say book the fight and give these guys the opportunity to give us the fight we all know they're capable of giving.